Hey guys, it's Tealus here. Welcome back to the Hall of the Guardian for the last time. This is the second video looking at Frost Mages and the changes that are coming to them in Legion. In the first video we looked at the abilities and artifact weapon for a Frost Mage in World of Warcraft Legion, and the outlook was somewhat bleak. It was kind of concerning what they've lost, at least in terms of PvP and a little bit in terms of PvE. However, after doing my kind of preliminary look through, kind of scan of the PvE talents and PvP talents coming to them for Legion, I think Frost Mages will still be okay. Everything should be in good shape. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into the PvE and PvP talents video for World of Warcraft Legion Frost Mage changes. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this. I will say that most of the talents, you're going to see some familiar talents on here, but a lot of them have changed. So you're going to see a lot of changes in the talent tree here. We will go through them. First, we have Ray of Frost. This is an ability. Well, before we get to this one, because it's a minute cooldown, let's go ahead and look at Lonely Winter. Replaces Summon Water Elemental. You can no longer summon Water Elemental, but Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Flurry, and Frozen Orb deal 23% increased damage. I like this, because I'm not really a big fan of having a pet. No PvPer will take this, because this gets rid of your freeze. You don't want to get rid of that as a PvPer, because I mean that's a huge deal in terms of not just generating a nice like a charge for your Fingers of Frost, but for rooting people, which is now more dire than ever to have that with the loss of deep freeze. So I don't see any PvPers taking this. However, this could be something that PvEers take and they like. However, the only thing that I'm concerned about, and I kind of mentioned this in the last video, is this epic portrait right here. Your Water Elemental's Water Bolt deals 30% increased damage and has a 10% chance to generate a charge of Fingers of Frost. I wonder if this has been factored into the damage that is, could come from not having the extra damage that you get for not having a Water Elemental. They could have already thought of this. If not, I'm sure they'll balance it, but just something to look out for, and I'm sure the theory crafters will figure out which one is the best option for you. The other passive here is going to be Bone Chilling. Whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, increasing all frost damage you deal up to 0.5% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 12 times. So let's go ahead and use this and see just how many stacks of Bone Chilling I can get. So we have... It says I have a chance. You gain Bone Chilling. Whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, increasing all frost damage you deal by 0.5% for 6 seconds. So as you can see right here, I have Bone Chilling right now. Increases the damage of frost spells by 5% at 12 stacks, it looks like. 5%, 6% at 12 stacks. So that is max at 12 stacks, how much you can do. Pretty cool. But you gotta kind of have to be careful to keep it up, because remember that chilled is a little bit different from just the movement speed reduction from Flurry, I believe. We'll use this here just to make sure. Yes, Flurry is different, so it has to be chilled, so it has to be something from Frostbolt. I don't think Ice Lance applies anything like that as well, so you have to be careful what you use this on. Another good example will be, let's try Frost Orb over here. Frost Orb does apply chilled, so only certain abilities apply that, so you're going to have to be careful with that. Your third option here is the first one that we looked at. It's going to be Ray of Frost. I got to wait for that to get out of combat, but we'll talk about this until it does. For the next 10 seconds, you can channel a beam of icy power at an enemy, slowing enemy movement by 50% and dealing 33,000 frost damage every 0.9 seconds. Each time Ray of Frost deals damage, the damage is increased by 20%. This is pretty cool. This is probably going to be the option in PvP if I were to take a guess. But let's go ahead and see Ray of Frost in action here. That's pretty cool. It's just a basic channel there. I mean, if it really is powerful in PvP, I mean in PvE, I'm sure that the theory crafters will figure out which one of these is the best. But that's a pretty cool option to have. 1 minute cooldown, start doing some burst damage. The only thing that concerns me is that uh, it does take a long time. It's a 10-second cast time, and that's 10 seconds of you standing still. However, it could synergize really well with another ability coming down the line. So we'll take a look at it. In the 30 tier, we have Shimmer. Shimmer replaces Blink, teleports you 20 yards forward, unless something is in its way, unaffected by the global cooldown and castable while casting max 2 charges. So, that same YouTube viewer who informed me about the Conjure refreshment table and where it actually is now, gave me a little lesson on Blink. I really have not done PvP Mage in a very long time. For the most part, my Mage has been mostly PvE. So PvP is not my speciality. So I have not encountered this thing with Blink too often. But basically, this now gives you the option to blink forward while in the middle of a cast. So you can be attacking and then you can blink forward, and you don't have to actually stop the cast. You would have to have a macro before with blink. Now you don't. I still think basically it should allow you to continue casting while you're blinking forward. Like when it says castable while casting, I feel like it ain't unaffected by the global cooldown. I feel like you should still be able to continue through like a frostbolt cast and still be able to hit someone. And that's what I wish they would change to, but at the moment that doesn't seem to be the case. So as you can see right there, I blink forward and it gets interrupted. So I kind of hope that it switches to that, but you never know. It may not. But the big thing here is that it's 2 charges, so you now have 2 charges of kind of getting around the map, getting away, which is really nice to have. There's Cauterize. This works like the old Cauterize. Same thing. The only difference is Blazing Speed's been baked in. So whenever Cauterize procs, you now get Blazing Speed in addition to it. Nice just buff there for it. The last option is Cold Snap. Ice Block now has 2 charges and heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 1 second. I need to double check to make sure I didn't pass over Ice Block having any reductions in Frost. I do not believe it does. It does not. Just making sure. So basically you have a 2.5 minute cooldown on your Ice Block instead of a 5 minute because you have 2 charges and it heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 1 second, which I believe, once again pulling it up here, will total to 30% of your health, I believe. So that's a lot. Plenty of health regen there and everything, and so it's a solid option. Shimmer, Cold Snap, Cauterize, I think these are all solid options for you. In PvE, I think Ice Block, Cold Snap would be more of the choice. Because I always like in PvE, like if there's a big AoE abilities that he's got to use and everyone's going to like run away or go somewhere special, you can sit there and Cold Snap and then you can get right back to dealing damage quicker than everyone else because everyone else had to run away. So it's something that I like, but it could be different for everyone. So we'll see how it goes. In the 45 tier, Mirror Image is back. It's been brought down several tiers. Still the same though. 3 copies of yourself, cast spells and attack enemies for 40 seconds. Incanter's Flow, same thing. Nothing has changed there. Rune of Power has changed, and thank goodness, because I really hated Rune of Power. It is the main reason why I stopped PvEing as a mage and went back to an Elemental Shaman. Was that 90 tier. I hated it with a passion. If you weren't using the right talent in that tier, you basically did way less damage, and it just was so disappointing. So the old Rune of Power is gone. There's this new one that places a Rune of Power on the ground for 10 seconds, which increases your spell damage by 50% while you stand within 8 yards. Max 2 charges. So I mentioned Ray of Frost having some great synergy with a talent down the line. This is what I was talking about. So it goes right underneath you, and then you start using Ray of Frost, and you have that extra damage burst that you're getting out of it. As you can see, I'm starting to really hit for a lot of damage with this rune underneath me. So it lasts almost, I believe, the entirety of it. 10 seconds, and Ray of Frost lasts 10 seconds, so you can get off the combination pretty well. And you don't have to aim it anymore. It just appears right underneath you, and then you can start using Rune of Frost. So actually, this is actually pretty cool when you combine it with Ray of Frost, and it's something that I could definitely see in PvE. I normally would expect to see Mirror Image in PvP. However, Rune of Power, the way it is, it before it had no PvP applications. It stunk in PvP. Now, Rune of Power, the fact that it is a short cooldown, if you find yourself in a situation where you've created enough space or enough CC to keep them off you for a bit, Rune of Power is going to be really potent. If you've got like a whole bunch of burst damage lined up, you can just blow them up real quickly. I mean, we'll do one more example right here. Icy Veins, Ray of Frost, and then just start laying into them as well. It's a lot of damage you're able to deal really quickly, which is pretty powerful. I don't have the math in my head to quickly add all that up, but that right there is the amount of damage from Ray of Frost is easily a health bar. I can say I'm pretty certain that easily all that damage right there with that combo is an entire health bar. So that's really powerful frost damage there. The only thing you're going to have to worry about is that's a long cast, and that's easily interrupted, so that's something that you also have to worry about. So if you're able to, stub a melee from distance and then really, really tear into them, that can be really powerful. Just one note, Frost Mages, there are several melee now have actually ranged interrupts, so be careful. With that, let's go to the 60 tier, where a lot of things, where one of our problems, one of the items that we lost as a Frost Mage has been returned. First, Ice Nova is back, and the best part about this, and this really helps out with the fact that you no longer have Deep Freeze, is that it does not replace Frost Nova. So you have Frost Nova, and then on top of that you have Ice Nova that you can use on the target, okay? That is a great change to the way it was before. It still functions technically kind of the way it used to. It doesn't have 2 charges anymore. It only has 1 charge. 25-second recharge on it still. 100% increased damage. Still roots the same. It just doesn't have 2 charges anymore. So, but at the same time, you're not losing your Frost Nova set. It's a great change, and honestly, I see PvPers taking this probably without question. They may want to take this next one here, but I think Frost Nova will just give them so much control on the battlefield between Frost Nova and having the Blizzard snares, and basically they're going to just be loaded with snares and roots all over the place. Frozen Touch immediately generates 2 charges of Fingers of Frost, so if you really want to just get a lot of burst at one point, you can choose Frozen Touch. I'm not sure how this will play into PvE. In my opinion, this will be the least used talent. I don't see PvEers taking this. I could be wrong. The Theory Crafters will always know better than I do about this kind of stuff. So they'll decide, but I see PvPers taking something like Ice Nova, and then I see PvEers likely taking something like Splitting Ice. Your Ice Lance and Icicles now deal 10% increased damage and hit a secondary nearby target for 50% of their damage. So your split is kind of back here with this, basically launch an orb forward. I don't think I have any targets close enough, but I have the ability once again to cleave with my Ice Lances, which is what I really wanted back. So that's pretty cool. In the 75 tier, we have Ice Flows. This functions as it does on live. It's just now way it's way forward. It makes your next mage spell with a cast time shorter than 10 seconds castable while moving, unaffected by the global cooldown, and castable while casting. Max 3 charges. It functions the way it does on live. So really no changes there. Ring of Frost, same thing, still there. Ice Ward, this is my personal favorite, mostly because Ring of Frost still has a cast time. If they got rid of the cast time on Ring of Frost, I think it could be really considered to be useful for PvP mages. However, Ice Flows is going to be the choice for PvE mages, and PvP I think will go with Ice Ward. Having double Frost Nova and having your Ice Nova on top of that I think is really strong. So you have Ice Nova, and then you have Frost Nova twice. So that's pretty strong, and I don't think that's really something that you can really pass up. In the 90 tier, Unstable Magic still functions pretty much essentially as it did before. 20% chance, dealing an additional 50% AoE damage. Works the same. Frost Bomb. Places a frost bomb on the target, limit one target. Your ice lances that benefit from shatter will trigger the release of a wave of damage. Target dealing 20,000 frost damage to all enemies within 10 yards. It's the same. Frost bomb lasts for 12. It's the same. So frost bomb has not changed. If you liked it before, you'll still like it again. Okay. I do not have any charges at the moment, but basically it still will function as it did before. So it still has that burst right there, which is pretty cool. The third option here, though, is called Arctic Gale. It increases Blizzard's damage by 30% and its area of effect damage by 20%. I personally see this being taken by PvPers, and who knows, this may be the option for PvEers. As I mentioned, remember your Blizzard is now basically a... your Blizzard is now, you cast it and then you can leave it. You don't have to channel it anymore. So, right now, Blizzard's range, as you can see, it hits the edge of both of these bulwark constructs here in front of me. If I put on Arctic Gale, if I put on Arctic Gale, as you can see, it got larger, much larger, and it does more damage now. So now I have this large area of effect that I can snare people within, and I can get, you know, procs of I can get procs of Fingers of Frost. I think I understated this in the first video, how important this change is to Blizzard, because, you know, being able to cast this and let it passively generate charges of, on its own, charges of Fingers of Frost, may become very potent for Frost Mages. It may be potent enough to put it into a PvE rotation, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if that's something Blizzard would like, but I personally like it as a PvPer because it gives me an area in which I can not only do damage to them, but I can keep them snared and play kind of that mid-range mage, in which I can put a Blizzard up. I have 2 Frost Novas and an Ice Nova on top of it. I have stuff like Flurry, instant cast Flurries if I'm able to get it, and I can just really have a lot of control in a small area, which is pretty powerful. In the 100 tier, we have Thermal Void. Casting Ice Lance increases your icy veins by 2 seconds, same as it is on live. They got rid of Prismatic Crystal, thankfully. I couldn't stand that ability, so I'm very happy that it's gone. Glacial Spike is the new one that is here, and this is actually pretty cool. So, conjures a massive spike of ice, immerses your current icicles into it, and impales your target, dealing 140,000 damage plus the damage stored in your icicle, and freezes the target in place for 4 seconds. Damage may interrupt the freeze effect. So this is kind of like your deep freeze. However, you need 5 icicles, and it's a long cast time, so there's a lot of downsides to it. But it's pretty powerful. Now, so let's go ahead and let's get this ability, and let's see how this is going to function. So let's go ahead and we will use both Blizzard and we will use Frostbolt and start building up my Ice Lance charges as quickly as I can. And now I have enough. I can use it. Let's use Glacial Spike right here. As you can see, it combines them all. It's got a huge visual, and then it slams into the target, freezing them. Pretty cool. Remember, it freezes them in place, so it doesn't take them out of the battle like Deep Freeze would. But so it's another type of way to kind of freeze someone in place. The only problem I have with it is that it takes so long for it to actually activate, which I think is kind of a detriment to you know, what you're able to do as a Frost Mage. However, just think about this. You know, combine this with something like our good old Rune of Power that we can cast underneath us, and then use Glacial Spike and deal a lot of damage. That one right there hit for 636,000 frost damage. That's a lot. 636,000 frost damage is over a third of a health bar. So, Frost Mage has a lot of control, A lot of wants to be probably mid-range, and it can deal a lot of damage really quickly. A lot of burst damage potential on a Frost Mage. However, if you find yourself out of place, you're going to end up finding yourself dead. So, there's some interesting changes here. They've lost some control. They've gained some control back, mostly through freezes. But those will, remember, they'll start to share diminishing returns, and then it won't be as strong anymore, so that's something you're going to have to be careful of. But you have options like Glacial Spike that deal a lot of damage if you're able to get that off. So, a lot of options here, and as I said, I really feel like the PvE talent tree really kind of saves what was kind of a dismal... it was really kind of a abysmal outlook on how Frost was going to be in World of Warcraft Legion. Things were looking kind of dreadful. So, PvE talent tree definitely does save it. Comet Storm still functions the same. I'm going to use it just because it's such a cool spell visual. It does a lot of damage. As far as PvE is concerned, I'm not really sure which one will be the popular option. This does so much damage. I'm not sure how much damage it's going to do compared to some of the other abilities. I mean, combining it with something like Rune of Power makes it so strong. Considering it takes maybe, what, 7 or 8 seconds to get 5 glacial shards, you could possibly have a Rune of Power able to get 2 of these off. Basically, 2 glacial strikes off in 1 Rune of Power. You have 2 charges of this. So this could be the power combos, Glacial Spike and Rune of Power. But if it's a really big boss, maybe Comet Storm is your option, or Thermal Void. I don't know, because remember, Icy Veins has a lot of boosts through your artifact weapon, and so forth. So there's a lot of options here in that 100 tier for theory crafters to decide what is going to be best. However, I do think in PvP it's going to be a no-brainer with Glacial Spike. The only problem is getting it to actually launch off. That's going to be the issue. So, with that, let's look at the honor talents for a PvP Frost Mage in World of Warcraft Legion. Do you know that PvP operates different in World of Warcraft Legion? You will start at level 1 and work your way all the way up to level 50. As you work your way all the way up to level 50, you will start gaining talents. You'll start at level 1 with Gladiator's Medallion. At level 10, you'll have Concentrated Coolness. At level 13, you'll get Adaptation, and you'll work your way down to Burst of Cold. And then you'll do the same for the final tier, with level 46 being the one where you get Icy Form. And then at 50, you can Prestige and start all the way back with Gladiator's Medallion and get something cool, like a mount, a pet, or something. It'll be static per level. I think the first level is like a pet. I think level 4 may be the first mount that you get. Or you can say, I'm not doing this again, and just stick with where you are with all your talents. It's going to be up to you. With that being said, let's look at the first tier, which is all about your Honorable Medallion. Your Honorable Medallion will basically be a 3-minute trinket. It's like your Heirloom Tribute. It's a 3-minute trinket that you're given when you first go into a battleground. You can replace that with a Gladiator's Medallion, which is your regular 2-minute trinket. If you want control over your trinket, this is what you choose. Your other option is Adaptation. All loss of control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more will activate your Honorable Medallion spell, but only cause it to incur a 60-second cooldown. I like this one. However, you lose control over your trinket. Now, you still are able to activate the Honorable Medallion. However, the Honorable Medallion, I believe, will cause your adaptation to go on a 3-minute cooldown as opposed to just 60-second cooldown, so beware of that. Relentless will replace your Honorable Medallion, and the duration of incoming crowd control effects is reduced by 25%. I really probably only think that tanks will be tanking this, or Resto Druids, or someone who can really take a lot of damage or heal when you're crowd controlled. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I see in terms of Relentless. The second tier is all about range DPS. You have Train of Thought, damage increased by 15%. Being attacked will cancel this effect for 8 seconds. This may be good for all the burst damage you can do as a Frost Mage, getting the jump on someone, but in all honesty, if you're going to be a close-range Mage fighter, which I'm thinking Frost is going to be, this is not going to be a great talent. There's Mind Quickness, which increases your haste by 6%. This is probably, I think, one of the best options for Frost Mage, because of being in that close range. They're going to want to get spells off as quickly as possible. And then there's Initiation, critical strike chance. Critical chance of your damaging abilities and attacks increased by 30% on targets at or above 80% health. Now we get into the Mage two tiers. First, we have Netherwind Armor. It reduces the chance you will suffer a critical strike by 15%. There's Burning Determination. After being interrupted while casting a spell, you become immune to being interrupted while casting for 8 seconds. And then there's Prismatic Cloak. After you blink, your spells have a 100% chance to miss you for... spells have a 100% chance to miss you for 2.5 seconds. Basically, 3 options here that are all kind of interesting. I like Prismatic Cloak because you can kind of time, especially if you have Shimmer. This should work with Shimmer. If you can time, like you see someone like launching a big Pyroblast at you or Chaos Bolt or something, you can time it and blink and then have it miss you. So that's pretty cool. In the 4th tier here, we have Temporal Shield. This is somewhat familiar. Envelops you in a Temporal Shield for 4 seconds. All damage taken while shielded will be instantly restored when the shield ends. So great option there. There's Dense Ice. Increases the amount your Ice Barrier absorbs by 60%, but your Ice Barrier can only absorb physical damage. I don't like this for Frost Mage because you already have a more powerful Frost Ice Barrier because of your artifact weapon. So honestly, this is something that I wouldn't take. It's interesting, maybe if you're like up against a class with a lot of physical damage, like a team against a lot of physical damage, but otherwise, I wouldn't choose it just because Frost Mage already has that empowerment on their shields. So why would you take this? And do note that many classes out there have the ability to do actual nature damage, etc., non-physical damage now. Even something like a sub-rogue can now do a lot of shadow damage. So, classes, I would say you got like Feral Druid, you have the Warrior specs, and then Hunter specs. And then everyone else from there has like some sort of... Rogues have poisons. There's just a lot of different damaging types out there. Physical isn't as prominent as it used to be. Even enhancement shamans have a lot of way to enhance their abilities to be dealing different types of elemental damage. So I'm not sure how popular Dense Ice will be. The last option here is Kleptomania. Spell Steal now has a 15-second cooldown, but it steals all spells from the target. This was more appealing when you had a lot of blessings and buffs. This isn't as appealing now because of that. So I don't know how popular this will be, but it is an option for you. If anything, it's a super dispel. But once again, I mean, the best thing would be like, if you see a Resto Druid, I can see anyone taking this because you put like 6 hots on someone, and you're like, I'll take all those, which is pretty awesome. Which I think is a great option anytime you encounter a healer like that. But for the other healers that are just straight, flat heals, they don't have many hots, this wouldn't be the greatest. So I don't know. It's going to be up to the PvP to decide which one of these they like the best. I honestly am not sure which one I would take. In the 5th tier, these are the Frost Mage specific tiers, these 5th and 6th ones. First we have Chilled to the Bone. This was an old talent, I think in the old talent tree. It's been around for a while though, in different ways and forms. Your Frost Nova and your Water Elementals freeze deal 53,000 frost damage when the effect ends. Damage is doubled if Frost Nova or freeze is dispelled, so it gives you some dispel protection on your freezes. And allows them to do a lot of damage. 53,000 damage is more than a Frost Bolt. So it's a lot of damage right there. Especially if you're able to hit a lot of targets. And remember, as a Frost Mage, you have Freeze, Ice Nova, and 2 Frost Novas. So you have just a lot of control and snares on your side as a Frost Mage. Definitely makes up for the fact that you no longer have Deep Freeze. Frostbite gives your chill effects a 15% chance to freeze the target for 4 seconds. Now, this is getting a little dangerous here, because then you're going to really start hitting a lot of diminishing returns. Just throwing that out there. You're going to start hitting a lot of diminishing returns because you're going to be freezing people all over the place. So just take note of that. But this is a pretty cool effect that you can choose as well. Last option here is Deep Shatter. Your Frostbolt deals 300% additional damage to your frozen targets. Frostbolt, Frozen Orb, Blizzard, Freeze, Water Bolt, and Water Jet can no longer generate Fingers of Frost. So, basically, I think that basically just eliminates, unless I'm mistaken, that eliminates Fingers of Frost entirely. Um, I believe so. Yes. So it basically says we're getting rid of your Fingers of Frost, but we're giving you this thing called Deep Shatter. So if you're able to get off a freeze combo with a Deep Shatter, 300% additional damage, it's going to hurt. But you lose Fingers of Frost. I don't see people taking this. I honestly don't. I think Chill to the Bone and Frostbite are much better. I could be wrong, but I think if you're looking for high burst damage, it's going to be through Glacial Spike, not through Deep Shatter. 300% increased additional damage. My math is going to be really bad on this, but we're talking 200,000 frost damage maybe, if I have that correctly. 200,000 frost damage versus, I have no clue. 200,000 frost damage. I mean, just Ray of Frost alone can do way more than that with its ticks. So, honestly, I really don't like it. I think a better option would be, I mean, and I know for sure Glacial Spike's going to do way more than that anyway. So Glacial Spike baseline does 140,000, and then you add all of your icicles into that, it just does way more damage. So, unless you do Glacial Spike and Deep Shatter, but then again, you have to make sure that you get the freeze off. So, there's kind of some things that you actually have to pay attention there. Now, you could do a Glacial Spike. Remember, Glacial Spike freezes the target. So you could do a Glacial Spike into a Deep Shatter, which is really strong. But then you really have to start generating your little icicles, and that can start to be cumbersome. So, I don't know. It's going to be up to the playstyle of the PvPer and which one they like best. In the last tier, we have Concentrated Coolness. Frozen Orb's damage is increased by 50% and now castable at a location within 40-yard range, but no longer moves. I don't know about this one, to be honest. I mean, as we saw earlier, Frozen Orb actually has a pretty large radius. So it's actually could be pretty cool. You can set it down in the middle of a big battle and just start to do some damage. But if your positioning is good, I mean, you basically, Frozen Orb moves so slowly anyways, it basically is the same place anyways. So by then, you're looking more at the 50% increased damage, which is not really what Frozen Orb is known for. It would now be dealing up to 150,000 damage. It's really about getting those ticks for your Fingers of Frost. But if you have Deep Shatter, then that wouldn't matter anymore, so maybe Concentrated Coolness will be more of an option. It's up to you. Next, we have Burst of Cold. Your Frost Nova instantly resets the cooldown on your Cone of Cold and increases its damage by 600%. For 6 seconds. This is awesome. So let's just pull up Cone of Cold here for a second, if I can find the ability. And just, we need to look at how much damage it's doing. So Cone of Cold is dealing 6,000 frost damage. So really, 600% is going to end up not being that much. It sounds like a lot, but it's not going to end up being that much because it's already so low. 6,000 damage versus something like, I mean, just to give you an idea, your Frost Nova does 3,800 damage. So it does 1,200 more damage than your Frost Nova, and we all know Frost Nova is not known for its damage. So a 600% increase I don't think is going to change much when it's already that low. I mean, if we're talking about something like Frostbolt, 300% is huge, but 600% I wouldn't say is very much. So I could be wrong about this, but you know, it's an option. And once again, it's playing into that idea of you being a mid-range to close-range mage. Last option here is Ice Form. Replaces Icy Veins, 45-second cooldown. Your body turns into ice, increasing your Frostbolt damage by 50% and granting immunity to stun and knockbacks. Lasts 12 seconds. Well, this makes Deep Shatter even better now. Ice Form into a Glacial Spike into a Deep Shatter is a lot of burst damage in very little time. It's just like a 1-2-3 punch that's going to be devastating. 45-second cooldown is pretty easy to deal with, so this may be the option. And if this is what you're gunning for, then maybe you can go with something like Lonely Winter, which will then in turn increase your damage of your Frostbolt even more. Put a Rune of Power underneath it. Rune of Power, Icy Bolt, Glacial Spike, Ice Form, and you're blowing stuff up. So, that's something interesting that you guys will be able to try. But that is everything for the PvP talents for a Frost Mage. Basically, overview for PvE. With talents, not much has changed. However, the change to Blizzard is huge, okay? And that will change your playstyle a little bit in PvE. That is probably the biggest change for PvE. You can still talent back into the old Ice Lance, and there's Flurry, but I don't know if Flurry is going to be big enough to deal enough damage. But for the most part, PvE shouldn't change too much for a Frost Mage. For the most part, things should be good for you in PvE. PvP, they've zeroed in very much on dealing a lot of burst damage. However, they've changed it away from Deep Freeze and put it into a different type of form. The one thing you have to be careful, though, of is, of course, your diminishing returns on the mass amount of freezes you have. So just be careful of that. Otherwise, that's everything for Frost Mage in World of Warcraft Legion. That is it for all mages in World of Warcraft Legion. This is the last time you will be seeing the top $1 on here, unless we come back for a kind of class haul. I may do a class order haul, kind of like preview, kind of like a little a tour of it. May do that, but otherwise this is the last video from the Hall of the Guardian. I will see you guys later. Tealus out.